Okay, here's our first example problem. And the problem is this. Find the vertex, the focus, and the directrix of the parabola. Oh, keep on doing that. And the parabola given by y equals 0.5x squared. So y equals 1/2 x squared, or 0.5 x squared. All right. So the important things to know about parabolas, there's three main things, h, k, and p. All right. Now, what we can do is if we can write this in standard form, it's not exactly in standard form yet, we can figure out h, k, and p, and therefore figure everything out. I'm going to go back, actually. Since the x part is being squared in our problem, we know that it's either an upward or downward opening parabola. All right? So this is the form that we'll be working our way toward here. Okay, so here's the problem written out again. Since it's basically y equals positive x squared, you know that the shape's going to be upward. Even if you don't, once we put it in standard form, you'll figure it out. So here I'm going to take y equals 0.5x squared and start to work it towards standard form. So I'm going to flip both sides to get the x stuff on the left, just like if you go back a couple of slides here, you'll see. And then I'm going to, since this is 0.5, I could either divide both sides by 0.5 or multiply both sides by 2. And I get x squared equals 2y. I'm going to make this x minus 0 in parentheses and then square that. It's the same as x squared, but now you can see that it's of the form x minus h in parentheses squared. Likewise over here, here's the 2, and then y, I'm just going to make it parenthesis y minus 0 for the same reason. Now it's of the form y minus k. All right. So now it's pretty clear that h is 0 and k is 0. So I know what the vertex is. The vertex is the point 0, 0. And down here I go ahead and I plot that vertex right here at the origin. All right. Now, this part here in the general or standard form is the 4p part. So 4p must be equal to 2 because we have a 2 here. So that means p is 1/2, and p is positive, which again tells us it's going to be an upward parabola with the focus above the vertex. All right. So where is the focus? Well, it's going to be, wow, there we go. The focus will be directly above the vertex by how much? P, by 1/2. So if I'm at the origin and I go up by 1/2, I'm now at the point 0, because I didn't change the x direction, right or left, it stayed the same, and I just went up from 0 to 1/2. So the focus is 0, 1/2. All right, so what about the directrix then? Well, the directrix is going to be now below, a horizontal line below the vertex. How far below? Well, by p, but down this direction now. So go 1/2 downward. So instead of being at the x-axis, which would be y equals 0, if I'm down 1/2, it's the line y equals negative 1/2. So horizontal lines are y equals, vertical lines are x equals something. All right, so there's your directrix. And that's your first example problem. We were given an equation. We wanted to find certain things. All right, next example. Now you're not given an equation, but you're given information. We want to find the standard form equation of a parabola. Vertex is at the origin 0, 0. So already we know h and k. And the focus is 0, negative 2. All right. So let me click to the next slide. Same problem written up here. Identifying h and k is 0 and 0. Now the focus. First off, let me graph the vertex at the origin. I know the focus is 0, negative 2. So x is 0, I go down to negative 2. There's my focus. Since my focus is below the vertex, I know my parabola has to be a downward opening parabola. All right? So I know that. And furthermore, since the focus is below the vertex, P must be negative. In this case, -2, to get me down from the vertex to the focus. So now I have P is -2, H is 0, K is 0. H, K, and P are the important things about a parabola. I went ahead and put in the directrix here, even though you don't need that. It would be at y equals 2. So I take the standard general equation of the parabola, x minus h in parentheses squared equals 4p times parentheses y minus k, and plug in my h, k, and p. And so I get x minus 0 in parentheses squared equals 4 times p is -2, parentheses y minus k is 0. Well, x minus 0 is just x, so x squared is equal to -8y. And there it is, the standard equation for that parabola. All right, so that one was fairly easy. Let's move to another one. This time we're given an equation, but it's not in a nice form. It's not in standard form at all. So it's hard to tell what, H, K, and P would be, and I need those to help me find the vertex, the focus, and the directrix. All right? So how do we deal with that problem? Well, let me go to the next slide here. Here's the problem written out here. We need H, K, and P, but the parabola is not given in the standard form. Now, there was a technique back in your Algebra 2 days called completing the square, which most of you seemingly don't remember fondly. It's not that hard, but let's go over that a little bit. To complete the square, we're going to leave the x squared and the -2x on the left side, and we're going to move all the y and the 31 thing all to the right side. So we're going to separate them out. And that's what I'm telling you to do here. So I get x squared minus 2x on the left. I'm going to add 16y and add 31 to both sides. It brings them over to here. All right. Now when you complete the square, you're looking at the stuff that's squared. Basically, I'd like to turn this left side into something that could factor very nice and easily into a form that's consistent with the standard form of a parabola. And if you remember back in completing the square, it was easier if you had a 1 in front of your x squared or y squared if you have that type of case there. If not, we'll talk about that later on if you run into something, how you would handle that. Then the deal is you look at the number in front of your x in this case and take half of it. So -2 is what's in front of the x. I take half of that, which is -1, and then you square that. So -1 squared is 1, and that's what you're going to add to both sides of the equation. So you see me doing that down here. So there's the x squared minus 2x. I'm going to take half of -2, so -2 divided by 2, that's half of it, in parentheses, and then I square that. So -1 squared is 1. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides of the equation. I've got to keep it in balance. All right? So now I have x squared minus 2x plus 1, and on the other side I have 16y plus 32. Now what I'll do is factor both sides. So this trinomial here on the left side is x minus 1 in parentheses times x minus 1, which is really x minus 1 squared. On the right side, the only thing I can factor out is the greatest common factor, which is 16. So I have 16 times parentheses y plus 2. So now my final standard equation is right down here at the bottom. I'm going to leave my cursor there so that annoying thing at the bottom goes away. And now you can see that h is 1, k is -2, so now I know the vertex. The vertex is 1, -2. And I have that 16. Well, 16 is in the position of 4p. So 4p equals 16, which means p is equal to 4. So now I have h, k, and p. And what I'm going to do is go over here. Since I now know what the vertex is, it's hk, or 1, -2. I'm going to plot it. Here's the point 1, negative 2. I know that P is a positive 4. I also know that since it's the x that's being squared and P is positive, the shape will be an upward smiley face type of parabola. So from the vertex, I will go up 1, 2, 3, 4 because P is 4. So now my focus is at the point 1, 2. So now I have the focus as the point 1, 2. It's 4 above the vertex. Well, the directrix, let me pull my face down a little bit. There we go. The directrix is going to be from the vertex, I'll go 4 below it because that's what P was 4, but now I'm going in the opposite direction of the focus. So if I was at a depth of negative 2, that's what the y-coordinate's telling me, I go down 4 more. Now I'm at y equals negative 6, and that's your directrix. All right? So this did require completing the square. And if you need any help on completing the square technique, you know, I can do some of that with you after this video. All right? So now, let's take a look at, actually I'm going to break it here and do one short video to finish one last problem. So let me stop part 2 and then we'll go to part 3.